They say memory is cruel. It either keeps you chained to a past you want to forget, or it robs you of the only moments worth living for. In my case, it did both, and it tore him away from me. It wasn't supposed to happen. We were untouchable. At least, that's what I thought when I looked at Himmy World. My anchor, my reckless, beautiful mistake. But when I opened my eyes in that sterile white hospital room, with tubes running through my veins and a pounding emptiness in my chest, he wasn't there. Worse, I didn't even remember his name. The doctors called it selective memory loss. I called it punishment, because when fragments of our story came back to make us laugh under the New York rain, the way he held me too tight when he thought no one was watching, the way his coldness could cut and yet his silence screamed devotion, I realized I hadn't just lost my memory. I'd lost him, and he wasn't the kind of man who waited around for someone to remember. The first time I saw him after the accident, it was like running headfirst into a wall I'd built myself. He stood there at the corner of Fifth Avenue, leather jacket draped carelessly over his shoulders, hands in his pockets, looking every bit like the boy I used to love and a stranger all the same. His eyes caught mine, those ocean blue depths I once drowned in, and for a split second I swore something flickered there, fear, longing, maybe even love. But then it vanished, replaced by that cold steel mask I'd come to associate with him in the fragments of memory I managed to piece together. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low, clipped. No hug, no smile, no trace of the warmth I vaguely remembered. "Do Ito I know you?" I hated the way the words trembled out of me, hated the way I felt naked under his gaze, as if every nerve in me remembered what my mind had stolen. His jaw clenched. "Not anymore." Then he walked away, and I knew right then the accident didn't just erase him from my mind. It erased me from his heart. But New York is cruel in the way it keeps throwing people at you over and over until you either break or give in. Weeks later, I saw him again, at a dingy coffee shop tucked between two brick buildings in Brooklyn. I hadn't meant to walk in. I had just been chasing ghosts, trying to follow the vague pull of a memory that wasn't even mine anymore. There he was, sitting at the corner table with a book in hand, his dark hair falling over his forehead. His leather jacket carelessly hung on the chair beside him. The world around him buzzed with chatter and clinking coffee mugs, but he sat in silence, unreadable. Something in me snapped. "You can't keep doing this," I said, slamming my coffee down across from him before I even realized what I was doing. His eyes lifted slowly, cool as winter. "Doing what?" "Pretending I don't exist." My voice cracked, and it hurt, because I didn't even know if I was right. "Pretending you don't care." For the first time since the accident, his mask cracked. Just slightly. His lips parted as if he wanted to say something, but instead he laughed, a sharp, bitter laugh that made my skin prickle. "You think I don't care? You think it's that easy for me?" He leaned forward, his voice low, dangerous, trembling with something he refused to name. "You forgot me, remember? You don't get to come back and ask for pieces of me when you left everything we had on that highway." My breath hitched. The highway. My mind flared with broken images, rain, screeching tires, the echo of his voice screaming my name, and then nothing. And I realized he had been there. He had seen me shatter. He had lived through my forgetting. I wanted to reach for him then, to tell him I remembered enough, remembered the way my heart still beat to the rhythm of his. But I didn't, because for every memory that crawled back to me, there was a shadow of pain in his eyes that told me remembering might not be enough. Still, he didn't walk away this time. He stayed. And maybe that was the cruelest part of all, because staying meant hope. And hope was the one thing I wasn't sure either of us could survive. Silence stretched between us like a blade, sharp enough to bleed, heavy enough to crush. The buzz of the coffee shop faded into white noise, as if the whole world had chosen to leave us alone in that fragile, trembling space. His hand rested near his cup, fingers tapping once against the ceramic, then still. I stared at that hand, at the faint scar that trailed across his knuckle, and my chest tightened as if my body remembered tracing it with my lips, even if my mind couldn't. "You don't get it," he said finally, voice low, words laced with exhaustion instead of anger this time. "You wake up and forget. Easy. You lose everything and maybe it hurts, but it's blank. Clean. But me? I woke up every damn day knowing you didn't know me. Do you have any idea what that's like?" I swallowed hard, my throat burning. "I didn't choose this." "Neither did I." His jaw flexed, eyes darting toward the window as if he couldn't bear to look at me. But I had to live with it. With you looking at me like I was a stranger. With you forgetting the promises, the plans. All the things that made us real. My pulse quickened. There was something underneath his words. Some truth too raw for him to say outright. And suddenly, it wasn't enough to sit across from him. The distance felt unbearable, like a wall pressing against my lungs. I leaned forward, voice trembling. Then tell me who we were. Tell me what I meant to you, because every night I dream about someone I can't see clearly, and every time I look at you, I feel like I'm losing him all over again. His eyes snapped back to mine, burning. Don't you dare. The force in his voice made the air between us crackle. My hands curled into fists. Don't I dare what? Don't I dare want the truth? Don't I dare want you? You can't want me if you don't remember me. His words were a whisper now, ragged, breaking at the edges. And I can't keep being your stranger when I used to be your everything. My heart stuttered. There it was. The ache I couldn't name. He used to be my everything. That night, I lay awake in my tiny apartment, the city alive outside my window, every honking car and drunken laugh stabbing at the silence he'd left in me. My phone screen glowed in the dark, his number still saved, though I couldn't remember when or why. My thumb hovered over the call button more times than I cared to admit, but I never pressed it. Instead, I drowned in fragments. His laugh under pouring rain. His hand brushing mine on a rooftop ledge. A fight, maybe, where I'd thrown words like knives, and his face had twisted in pain. None of it made sense. It was like trying to piece together a shattered mirror. The edges cut me more than the reflection revealed. But I knew one thing. I couldn't let him walk away again. The next time I saw him wasn't an accident. I found out where he worked bartending at a dive bar in Manhattan, the kind of place where neon lights painted the walls and broken souls came to drink themselves numb. He was behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, forearms taut as he poured whiskey into a glass without looking. His dark hair was slicked back tonight, his shirt clinging to him in all the right ways, and the moment he spotted me, his shoulders stiffened. "You're relentless," he muttered when I slid onto a stool. "Or desperate," I said, forcing a smile I didn't feel. "Maybe both." His mouth twitched, almost a smile, but it died before it bloomed. "What do you want, really?" "You." The word escaped before I could stop it. Too fast, too raw. "Even if I don't remember everything, I remember how it feels to need you." For a heartbeat, he froze. His hand tightened on the glass, and his eyes flickered with something wild, something I couldn't read. Then he shook his head, sharp and final. "You don't get to need me now. Not after everything." My chest ached. "But I do. Every piece of me screams your name, even if my brain can't catch up." "Isn't that enough?" His lips parted, but he didn't answer. He just turned away, grabbed a bottle, and poured another drink for a waiting customer. The conversation was over for him. But for me, it had only just begun. I started showing up. At the bar, at the coffee shop, on the streets we used to walk, hoping some corner, some neon sign, would trigger a memory worth holding on to. Sometimes he ignored me, sometimes he glared, but he never told me to stop. And that, in its own twisted way, was hope. One night, after his shift, I followed him out into the biting cold. He lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating his sharp cheekbones, and exhaled a cloud of smoke into the night. "You're insane," he said without looking at me. "Probably," I admitted, shoving my hands into my pockets. "But you're still here talking to me, so maybe you are too." He let out a laugh, quiet and humorless. "You always were stubborn." Something in my chest shifted. "So you do remember us." His eyes flicked to mine, and for once he didn't hide. Pain, longing, and something dangerously close to love burned there. "I remember everything. That's the problem." The cigarette burned down between his fingers. He dropped it, crushed it beneath his boot, and turned to leave. But before he did, he whispered so soft I almost thought I imagined it. "You were my whole damn world." And then he walked into the night, leaving me gasping, clutching my chest like his words had detonated something inside me. But the thing about detonations is they don't just destroy. They clear space. They leave behind room to rebuild. And I knew then, no matter how long it took, I was going to rebuild us. New York nights had a way of swallowing you whole. The city didn't care if you were in love or broken. If you remembered or forgot it, moved on, merciless and unapologetic. But I couldn't move on. Not when every street corner, every flicker of neon, whispered his name like a ghost haunting me. I found him again because of course I did. It was raining, the kind of relentless downpour that soaked through your bones. He stood under a flickering streetlight outside the bar, hair plastered to his forehead, leather jacket heavy with water. He looked untouchable, unreachable, and still I reached. "You can't keep running," I said, my voice nearly lost under the storm. He turned, water dripping from his lashes, blue eyes sharp enough to slice through me. "I'm not running. I'm surviving." My chest clenched. "Surviving without me?" His laugh was bitter, broken. "I've been doing it since the day you forgot." The words cut deeper than the rain, sharper than glass. I stepped closer, reckless, desperate. "Then remind me what we had, because every night I feel like I'm choking on something I can't name, and every time I see you, it's like my body remembers even if my head doesn't." He flinched, just slightly, like my words struck a nerve. His hands clenched at his sides. "Don't do this." "Do what?" "Make me believe we can go back. Make me believe you still." His voice cracked, and he swallowed it down like poison. "It doesn't matter. It does to me." My breath came out ragged, my heart pounding against my ribs. "I may not remember every moment, but I remember how it feels to want you. That has to mean something." He shook his head, rain dripping down his jaw. "It's not enough." I wanted to scream, to shake him, to force the truth out of him. Instead, I whispered, "Then tell me what would be enough." He froze, his lips parting, his gaze burning into mine with a fire that could have scorched the whole city. And for one brief, heart-stopping moment, I thought he'd say I was enough, that I always had been. But he didn't. He just stepped back, the distance between us colder than the rain. "Don't make me choose between remembering you and surviving you." And then he disappeared into the night, leaving me drenched, trembling, and more certain than ever that I couldn't let him go. The days that followed blurred together. Work, friends, the meaningless chatter of daily life, I'd all felt hollow, like background noise in a play I'd forgotten my lines for. All I could think about was him. The way his voice broke when he almost said what he couldn't. The way his hands trembled when he thought I wasn't looking. And the memories. God, the memories. They came in flashes now, sharp and unrelenting. His lips pressed against mine on a rooftop as fireworks exploded over the East River. His laugh echoing in a crowded subway, our hands brushing until he finally laced his fingers through mine. The smell of leather and cigarette smoke clinging to his jacket when he pulled me close. The sound of my own voice, desperate, begging him not to let go. And then the accident. Screeching tires. His voice shouting my name. Darkness. I woke up gasping in the middle of the night, clutching my chest, the ghost of his touch burning on my skin. I couldn't stay passive anymore, so I found him, again, this time at his apartment. I don't even remember how I got the address, maybe an old text, maybe muscle memory leading me there. The building was old, bricks weathered, windows glowing faintly in the night. I climbed the steps 2 at a time, heart hammering, and knocked. For a long moment, nothing. Then the door opened, and there he was, hair tousled, shirt loose, eyes widening in shock. "What the hell are you doing here?" His voice was sharp, but there was no strength behind it. "I had to see you." I pushed past him before I could lose my nerve, stepping into the small, cluttered apartment. It smelled like him, coffee, smoke, and something I couldn't name but knew was home. He closed the door behind me, tense. "You can't keep barging into my life like this. Then throw me out." I turned to face him, my chest heaving. "But you won't, will you? Because no matter how cold you act, no matter how much you push me away, you still want me here." His jaw tightened. "You don't know what I want." "Yes, I do." I stepped closer, close enough to feel his breath on my skin. "Because I want it too. Even when I couldn't remember your name, even when I looked at you and saw a stranger, my heart knew. And it still does." His eyes burned, flickering with something raw, something dangerous. "Don't," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Don't what?" "Don't make me love you again." The words hit me like a fist to the gut. My breath caught, my vision blurred, and before I could think, I reached for him. My hand curled around his wrist, warm and solid and real, and I whispered, "It's too late, you already do." For a heartbeat, he didn't move. The storm in his eyes raged, battling between surrender and restraint, and then pulled me in. His lips crashed against mine, desperate, searing, filled with every ounce of pain and longing he'd buried. I melted into him, my hands fisting in his shirt, my body remembering every line, every curve, every way we fit together like two halves of the same soul. The kiss was fire and ruin, salvation and destruction all at once. When we finally broke apart, gasping, his forehead rested against mine, his breath ragged. "This doesn't change anything," he whispered, though his voice shook with the weight of a lie. "Yes, it does." I cupped his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. "Because no matter how much you fight it, we're still us. Accident or not, memory or not, we're still us." His eyes closed, his hands tightening on my waist like he couldn't bear to let go. And in that moment, I knew we weren't healed. Not yet, but the cracks were showing in his walls. And if I had to, I'd spend the rest of my life breaking through. That night, I didn't leave. He didn't ask me to stay. But he didn't push me away either. We sat in silence, side by side on his couch, the city humming faintly outside. His shoulder brushed mine, a touch so small and yet so earth-shattering, and I realized something. The accident might have stolen my memories, but it didn't steal us, and I was going to fight like hell to prove it. They say love is fragile, but the truth is, it's the most stubborn thing in the world. You can bury it under anger, drown it in silence, even crush it under the weight of memory loss, but it claws its way back, demanding to be felt. By the time winter settled over New York, I had stopped chasing ghosts. I didn't need to, because he had stopped running. We were fragile, yes. Our nights were filled with arguments that flared and faded, with kisses that burned like both punishment and salvation. Some mornings he wouldn't speak to me at all, while others he'd let me wake up to the quiet warmth of his hand in mine. We weren't healed, but we were trying. And maybe that was enough, until the night everything broke. It was a fight like any other, or so I thought. I had found a photo tucked in the back of one of his drawers. On Coney Island, laughing, his arm thrown around my shoulders, my head tilted toward him like he was my gravity. The kind of photo you frame, not hide. "Why would you keep this locked away?" I demanded, the picture shaking in my hand. His face darkened. "Because it hurts. That's not fair." His voice was a blade. "You forgot me. You forgot all of it. Do you know what it's like to be erased by the person you loved most?" My throat closed. "I'm trying. You're trying now." His chest heaved, blue eyes blazing. "But where were you when I was standing outside your hospital room, watching you look right through me? Where were you when I begged for you to remember me, and you stared at me like I was nobody?" Tears stung my eyes. "I didn't choose this. And I didn't choose to keep loving you," he shouted, the words ripping out of him like glass. Silence crashed between us, heavy, suffocating. His chest rose and fell, his fists clenched, his face twisted with grief and fury. And then softer, broken. "But I did. I never stopped." Something shattered inside me. The anger, the guilt, the endless ache. I crossed the room and pulled him into me before either of us could breathe. He resisted for half a heartbeat, then collapsed against me, trembling, his fists clinging to my shirt like a man drowning. "I remember enough," I whispered into his hair. "I remember the way you make me feel. I remember that my world doesn't make sense without you. And maybe I'll never remember every moment, but I swear to you I will never forget you again." His body stilled, his breath hitching, and then he broke. The sound of his sob ripped through me, raw and devastating, and I held him tighter, as if I could stitch us back together with nothing but my arms. After that night, something changed. He let me in, slowly, cautiously, like a man unlocking doors he'd vowed never to open again. He told me stories of our first kiss on the Brooklyn Bridge at midnight, the way I used to steal his cigarettes just to annoy him, the road trip we never finished because we got lost in Jersey and ended up making out in a motel room instead. I listened, soaking in every detail, building a new history from the pieces of the old one. And little by little, I started to remember not just flashes, not just fragments but whole moments that lived in my bones. His hand in mine as we ran through the rain. His voice whispering, "I love you," in the dark. The accident, yes, but also the life before it. And the life we could have after. The first time I said it really said it was on New Year's Eve. We stood on the roof of his building, fireworks exploding over the city. His breath warm against my ear as he muttered something sarcastic about the neighbor's bad taste in champagne. "I love you," I said, cutting him off, my voice steady, clear. He froze, eyes widening, as if he couldn't believe it. "Don't say it just because, I remember." My hand tightened on his. "Not everything, maybe not ever everything, but I remember enough. I remember you, and that's all I need." For the first time since the accident, his walls crumbled completely. His smile broke through, bright and trembling. And when he kissed me, it wasn't desperation or anger or pain. It was love. Pure, stubborn, unyielding love. Months later, on a quiet spring morning, we sat on that same rooftop, the city stretching endlessly below us. The sun spilled gold across his hair, and for the first time he wasn't hiding. He was mine, wholly and unashamed. "You know," he said, his arm wrapped around me, his lips brushing the top of my head, "sometimes I still get scared that you'll wake up one day and forget me all over again." I laced my fingers through his, pressing a kiss to his knuckles. "Then we'll just fall in love again, as many times as it takes." His eyes softened, blue like the clearest sky, and he pulled me closer. "God, you're impossible, and you love me for it." He laughed, the sound rich and unguarded, and kissed me slow, deep, and certain. The city roared around us, alive and relentless, but up there on that rooftop we were untouchable. We were whole. We were home. And this time I wasn't going to forget. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.